Before we begin our journey tonight, a brief note. This episode of Sleepy Psychology is brought to you by the SAC Center, a leading telehealth clinic specializing in the testing and treatment of autism and ADHD. The SAC Center proudly serves all 50 states, bringing expert care directly to you wherever you are. To learn more about their comprehensive services and how they can help, please visit saccenter.com. Tonight we will gently explore another significant chapter from the annals of psychology, a story that delves into the profound influence of roles and environment on human behavior. Settle into your comfortable space and allow your breath to become soft and even as we journey back in time, to the summer of 1971. The setting is the quiet academic halls of Stanford University, specifically the psychology department. Here, a group of researchers, led by Professor Philip Zimbardo, embarked on an ambitious and ultimately unsettling experiment, one that would become known as the Stanford Prison Experiment. The genesis of this experiment lay in a desire to understand the psychological effects of perceived power and the impact of a specific institutional environment, a prison, on individuals. Zimbardo and his team were particularly interested in exploring whether the brutal and dehumanizing conditions often observed in real prisons were due to the inherent personalities of the people involved, the guards and the prisoners, or if the social roles themselves and the environment they created could shape behavior in profound ways. They sought to determine if good people could be made to act badly by a bad situation. This was a crucial question as it touched upon the fundamental debate between dispositional and situational explanations for human behavior. To answer this question, they needed to create a simulated prison environment. They recruited volunteers through newspaper advertisements, offering a daily payment for participation in a study of prison life. From a pool of 70 applicants, a careful selection process was undertaken. Those with any history of crime, psychological problems, or medical issues were screened out. The goal was to select psychologically stable, normal young men, largely college students, who were deemed to be in good mental health. These 24 participants were then randomly assigned to one of two groups, prisoners or guards. This random assignment was crucial, ensuring that there were no pre-existing differences between the groups that could explain subsequent behaviors, strengthening the argument that any observed changes were due to the situation itself. The prison itself was constructed in the basement of Stanford's Psychology Building. It was not a grand or imposing structure, but rather a carefully modified laboratory space, designed to mimic the essential elements of a real prison. There were 3 small cells, each with a cot, designed to hold 3 prisoners. There was also a small yard area and a solitary confinement room, ominously referred to as the hole. The physical environment was deliberately made to feel somewhat sterile and confining, aiming to evoke the sense of a real institutional setting and contributing to the psychological impact on the participants. Even the lighting and acoustics were considered to enhance the immersive quality of the simulation. The experiment was scheduled to last for 2 weeks. However, what unfolded in that simulated prison would challenge everyone's expectations and ultimately lead to its premature termination. The sheer intensity and rapid escalation of behavior were beyond what even the researchers had anticipated. Let us first consider the prisoners. They were not simply asked to walk into the prison. The researchers went to great lengths to make their experience feel real, right from the very beginning. On a quiet Sunday morning, the prisoners were unexpectedly arrested at their homes by real Palo Alto police officers. They were charged with various fictitious crimes, read their rights, handcuffed, and placed in the back of a police car. This initial shock, this sudden loss of freedom and dignity, was designed to immediately immerse them in their new role, creating a sense of powerlessness from the outset. They were then brought to the Stanford County Prison. Upon arrival, the prisoners underwent a dehumanizing intake process, mirroring real prison procedures. They were strip-searched, deloused with a spray, and made to wear a uniform, a smock-like garment without underwear, to further diminish their sense of individuality and create a uniform, undifferentiated appearance. They were given rubber sandals, which made it difficult to walk naturally, and a chain was placed around one ankle, a constant physical reminder of their confinement and restricted movement. Instead of their names, they were referred to only by a number assigned to them at intake. The loss of their personal identity, their name, was a powerful symbolic act, designed to strip away their previous self-concept and encourage them to adopt the identity of a prisoner. Now, let us turn our attention to the guards. They were given khaki uniforms, wooden batons, and mirrored sunglasses. The sunglasses were particularly significant, as they prevented direct eye contact, making the guards appear more intimidating and anonymous, and further dehumanizing their interactions with the prisoners. The guards were given instructions to maintain order, but their exact methods were largely left to their discretion, within the confines of no physical violence. They were simply told that the aim was to create a realistic prison environment, giving them a broad mandate that they quickly interpreted in an authoritarian manner. They were provided with the means to assert power, and the context suggested that such assertion was expected. The experiment began. On the first day, things were relatively quiet. Both groups seemed to be adjusting to their new roles, perhaps still approaching it with a sense of curiosity or even amusement. However, by the second day, the situation began to escalate rapidly. The guards almost immediately began to adopt their roles with remarkable zeal. They became increasingly authoritarian, devising their own rules and punishments, often without direct instruction from the researchers. They would wake the prisoners in the middle of the night for disruptive and arbitrary head counts, often accompanied by verbal harassment. They forced prisoners to do push-ups, clean toilets with their bare hands, and engage in other demeaning and humiliating tasks that served no practical purpose other than to assert dominance and control. The prisoners in turn began to react to this treatment. Some became rebellious, staging a small uprising on the second day, barricading their cell doors with their beds in an attempt to resist the guards' authority. This rebellion, however, was met with a swift and brutal response from the guards, who used fire extinguishers to force open the doors and then stripped the prisoners naked, placed the perceived ringleaders in solitary confinement, and generally increased the intensity of their control. The prisoners, initially defiant, slowly started to become more passive, more submissive, and more resigned to their fate. The psychological toll began to manifest in real distress. What was truly shocking was the speed and intensity with which both groups internalized their assigned roles. The guards, who were otherwise normal, empathetic young men, quickly became abusive and cruel. They seemed to genuinely forget that these were fellow students, not real criminals, and that they were participating in an experiment. Their behavior became increasingly sadistic and dehumanizing, pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable. They would often verbally abuse the prisoners, using degrading language and devising psychological tactics to break their spirit, such as restricting access to the bathroom or food as punishment. One guard in particular became known for his particularly cruel and creative methods of torment, earning him the nickname John Wayne by the prisoners, illustrating the extent to which they took on their roles. The prisoners, on their part, also changed dramatically. They became withdrawn, depressed, and anxious. Some began to experience severe emotional distress, exhibiting signs of acute stress reactions, crying, screaming, and having severe anxiety attacks. Within just a few days, several prisoners had to be released from the experiment due to these psychological breakdowns, signaling the experiment's dangerous trajectory. Their sense of personal identity eroded, replaced by the identity of a mere number, a prisoner. They internalized the belief that they deserved their fate, even though they knew it was an experiment, demonstrating the profound psychological impact of the dehumanizing environment. They stopped questioning the guards, even when the demands were irrational or humiliating, exhibiting learned helplessness. Even Zimbardo himself, the lead researcher, found himself caught up in the powerful dynamics of the simulated environment. He adopted the role of the superintendent of the prison, becoming deeply immersed in the day-to-day operations and losing some of his objective scientific perspective. He later admitted that he had become so invested in the experiment's unfolding that he had lost sight of the ethical implications of allowing the abuse and distress to continue, highlighting how easily even researchers can be swayed by situational forces. The experiment was originally planned for 2 weeks, but it had to be abruptly terminated after only 6 days. The catalyst for its termination was the intervention of Christina Maslach, a graduate student. She visited the prison and was horrified by what she witnessed: the dehumanization of the prisoners and the increasingly sadistic behavior of the guards. She challenged Zimbardo, confronting him about the ethical implications of allowing such a situation to continue. Her external perspective, unclouded by the intense role-playing within the prison, finally brought Zimbardo back to his scientific and ethical responsibilities, leading to the immediate cessation of the study. The Stanford Prison Experiment became a powerful and controversial landmark in psychology. It vividly demonstrated the profound impact of situational factors on human behavior. It suggested that even psychologically healthy individuals, when placed in powerful social roles within a defined environment, can quickly conform to the expectations of those roles, even to the point of engaging in behaviors that are contrary to their normal disposition. It provided compelling evidence that the situation itself, the roles, and the institutional setting can be a stronger determinant of behavior than individual personality traits. This challenged prevailing beliefs that personality alone dictated actions, pushing psychologists to consider the powerful influence of social context. The ethical implications of the experiment were, and continue to be, intensely debated. The severe psychological distress experienced by the participants led to significant changes in ethical guidelines for psychological research, emphasizing the paramount importance of participants' safety and well-being. Researchers are now required to obtain informed consent from participants, ensuring they fully understand the nature and potential risks of a study. Participants must also be explicitly informed of their right to withdraw at any time without penalty, and researchers are obligated to provide immediate debriefing and psychological support if needed. The Stanford Prison Experiment, alongside other controversial studies like Milgram's, truly reshaped how psychological research is conducted and regulated, moving towards a much stronger emphasis on protecting human subjects. Beyond the academic realm, the Stanford Prison Experiment had a profound influence on our understanding of torture and the psychology of working with prisoners. The experiment's findings offered a chilling insight into how ordinary people can be induced to inflict pain and humiliation on others when placed in positions of unchecked power within a dehumanizing environment. It illuminated the psychological mechanisms behind phenomena observed in real-world situations, such as the abuses at Abu Ghraib prison, where soldiers, often with little prior indication of cruelty, engaged in acts of torture and degradation. The experiment suggested that such behavior might not solely be the result of individual depravity, but rather a consequence of powerful situational pressures, lack of oversight, and the dehumanization of both the victims and, ironically, the perpetrators. This understanding has been crucial in informing discussions about prison reform, the training of correctional officers, and the treatment of detainees in military and intelligence contexts. It underscored the need for robust ethical frameworks, clear rules of engagement, and constant oversight to prevent the abuse of power in institutional settings. It also highlighted the importance of resisting the psychological tendency to dehumanize those in custody, recognizing that such a mindset can pave the way for cruelty. The study demonstrated that dehumanization, stripping individuals of their humanity and dignity, is a key precursor to mistreatment and abuse. When prisoners are reduced to numbers or objects, it becomes easier for guards to inflict suffering without feeling empathy or guilt. This insight has become fundamental to understanding the psychology of oppression and has implications for human rights and legal frameworks worldwide. The Stanford Prison Experiment serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of human behavior in the face of powerful social forces. It highlights the dangers of unchecked power, the ease with which individuals can become dehumanized, and the critical importance of maintaining a strong moral compass, even when pressured by a role or an environment. It underscores the need for constant vigilance against the potential for abuse in any hierarchical structure, whether it be a prison, a school, a workplace, or even a family. It forces us to acknowledge that the capacity for both good and ill lies within each of us, and that the circumstances we find ourselves in can profoundly influence which tendencies emerge. As we gently transition towards deeper rest, allow the insights from this story to settle within you, not as a source of alarm, but as a quiet understanding of the complexities of human nature. It reminds us to be mindful of the roles we play, the environments we inhabit, and the power dynamics that shape our interactions. It encourages us to cultivate empathy, to recognize the humanity in every individual, regardless of their role or perceived status, and to question authority when it conflicts with our innate moral compass. Now, as you continue to breathe softly, bring your awareness to your body. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest with each breath. Notice any areas of tension you might be holding, perhaps in your jaw, your shoulders, or your abdomen. With each exhale, imagine that tension melting away, like ice dissolving in warm water. Let your muscles soften, becoming heavier and more relaxed. Imagine a warm, comforting light beginning to spread from the center of your chest. This light is a soft, soothing color, perhaps a gentle blue, or a calming green, or a radiant gold. Feel this light slowly expanding, moving outwards through your body, reaching every cell, every muscle, every bone. As the light touches each part of you, feel a wave of profound relaxation wash over it. Let this light flow down into your arms, your hands, your fingertips, releasing any lingering stiffness. Feel it move down into your legs, your feet, your toes, leaving them feeling heavy and grounded. Allow your head to rest gently, your facial muscles completely relaxed. Your eyelids are soft and heavy, your breath is slow and deep. You are completely safe, completely supported. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. Just rest. Allow your mind to quiet, like a still pond on a moonlit night. Any thoughts that arise are like ripples on the surface, gently appearing and then fading away. You are simply observing, not engaging. Embrace this feeling of deep peace and tranquility. You are drifting on a calm sea of relaxation, carried by the gentle current of your breath. Feel yourself sinking deeper and deeper into a state of profound rest, where all worries dissolve and all tension dissipates. You are surrounded by comfort, enveloped in serenity. Allow yourself to surrender to this peaceful darkness, knowing that you are moving towards a deep, restorative sleep. Good night.